Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name's Brae Wyckoff. I'm the director of Kingdom Writers Association. Today, I am interviewing this amazing man of God, Dan Farnow, and he wrote an incredible book called The Quest for Marriage. It's a guy-friendly relationship book, but it's also for women as well. We'll talk about that. It's a Christian man's adventure in finding a wife and more. Dan, welcome. Good to have
Thank
you
you.
on.
You're so kind. I must say, though, about the women thing, I wasn't intending this book to be for women. However, it's more women that want to read it. I think, well, if they want to buy the book, I'm not going to stop them. I can't complain about that. It's
Yeah,
funny how things can be a surprise.
I think they want to get into the mind of a man. Like, what are they
Yep,
thinking?
exactly. That's the number one thing. And they say, well, we want to know what guys are thinking.
Yeah. So Dan, why the heck did you write this book, this quest for marriage? I mean, it must have been something very personal because when we write books, it's something that you struggled with, dealt with, fought through, and now you want to write something like this to help others, I imagine. But tell me why from your standpoint.
That is an excellent question. I just had the feeling you were going to ask me that. Well, it started when I first went to church. I was in my early 20s. I did not grow up going to church. I didn't really understand how all the rules in church worked. The church I was a part of did more legalistic practices where they were all about rules.
So you understand all the rules now.
Funny. You're a very funny guy.
I was gonna
You'll
say, let me know
understand
what all
why
the
there
rules are.
shouldn't be certain rules. Yeah. What happened when it came to relationships, it was one of the most awkward topics. And the church was always saying, oh, a single man and a single woman shouldn't be alone.
Yeah.
Oh, I understand the pros for it. The cons are, though, that a lot of times it's hard for us to build a relationship or even gauge is there something there if we're always in group settings. In order to ask a woman out, the unwritten rules, you need to ask the pastor first. This left a lot of guys taking a stab in the dark. Then, in the event they even made it to the next stage, in the event the relationship did not result in marriage, it seemed like one or both of the people would leave the church. Personally, I did not want to play that game. Still, I had no idea what to do. I ended up seeing somebody outside the church and going by the seat of my pants, thinking I knew everything. And that was funny. I was definitely wrong. I felt really burned. I was thinking, is like, how do I learn from this? It was definitely a hard fought struggle to learn from these things.
Yeah.
Fast forward when I actually did meet my beautiful wife and I got married, I decided to write fun memoirs about our own relationship. And then working on it more, it started to form into a book. And I decided to create something saying, you know what, I need something guy friendly. All the Christian books I saw out there for relationships were for women or in a woman friendly language. And it's written by pastors or by therapists saying, oh, these are the ideal standards for a relationship, such as after dating for 3 months, you should just do side hugs only. It's all these weird standards. Okay, they're ideals. I give you that. I was thinking, okay, but what was their relationship really like? You have two
Yeah.
imperfect people. Come on.
Yeah.
And then for me, it's what do I need to know? I decided, hey, why not do two in one? So I wrote a book for guys saying, hey, at this stage of the relationship, this is what you need to know. Here's the challenges you're going to face. Here are ways to overcome them. And then I share a lot of my own story too, saying, hey, here's how the relationship really was: good, bad, ugly, and flat out embarrassing.
Right.
Leads to
Yeah,
lots of humor.
yes, you've got some humor through there. You got some candid moments that were well structured and well written out. And I think many of us relate to if not all of it or pieces of it, uh or the generalization of the situation and how it occurred. So give us give us a sample of what we would expect in your book here. Do you have like something that on the top of your head, a sample of an
Mhm.
interesting encounter or event?
Sure. Well, I'll give you a little excerpt here. This is after being married, just helping someone transition to being married. And one of the things is money.
Oh yeah, there's a tough one.
Yeah, so for a couple paragraphs, it says, during the wedding and honeymoon, you will be on cloud nine. Since it's a time for celebration, there is no holding back on spending. This only happens once, and you rightfully got to live it up. Even shortly after arriving back home, some friends and family may be excited to see the new couple and be willing to cater to you or treat you to a meal. However, after being home for a week or two, guess what will be coming your way? You guessed it, bills. If everything spent on the honeymoon was charged to a credit card, I sure hope you make it a point to be sitting down when you open the statement.
Right.
Best of luck if you try to call the utility providers, the credit card company, or whoever else and ask for a discount since you just got married. The only deduction that will be made is the time you wasted waiting on hold for someone to laugh in your face.
So
Obviously, the
true.
time has come for you and your spouse to start paying attention to the finances. Hopefully, before being married, you went through premarital counseling and discussed the expectation on how the two of you will plan to handle money. If not, time needs to be taken to do so, since one of the biggest stresses on a marriage can be finances.
Oh yeah.
And then I go on in that, but you'll just have to get the book to find out.
Yeah. That's great because finances is a huge thing, and that's something that every relationship has to deal with. And so, spending habits from each person, and you have to learn that, right? You come in with your way, and then that's not their way. And this happens in every angle of the relationship. So whatever you bring to the table, you almost have this expectation that others are thinking the same way you do. That is not the case. Your
No,
wife,
sirree.
your husband comes in and they're like, you don't think that way? Who raised you? Now, here's the other thing. Dan, you talk about the potential in-laws.
I
Um,
do.
and dealing with in-laws. Do you have any little scraps of information or something you want to share about the in-laws? Because that's always fun.
Absolutely. A big thing I learned is looking at the relationship before marriage. It's a very short time in the whole scheme of things, but it's so, so, so crucial. I even looked to how relationships worked in different cultures. Because believe it or not, dating is a fairly new thing in the whole scheme of things. In other cultures, they had arranged marriages or they had
Right.
families involved. What really sold me is actually involving the family at the beginning. In some ways, this is anti American, but it works so well. What I did with Margaret's family is I built a relationship with the father figure in her life before asking for her hand in marriage and actually getting to know him myself and building my own relationship.
Yeah.
This went so far, even Margaret was able to spend time alone with my stepmother and build their own relationship. Once we built in this kind of way, it actually helped us have great relationships. I mean, with my in-laws, I love my in-laws. They're really wonderful people, very supportive. And
Yeah.
my family absolutely loves Margaret.
That's
However, if
fantastic.
we come with the approach that, oh, I'm dating this person, I'm going to marry this person, family, I'd like you to meet them. I'll deal with them. Hope you
Yeah.
like them. Then it becomes that whole awkward thing saying, ugh, in-laws. And
Yep.
then even later down the road, let's say things start going south and you go to your family for help, then they can say, oof, I never liked that person anyways. What were you thinking? If maybe you listened to me beforehand, you wouldn't even be in this mess.
That's right.
Interesting tidbit though, with arranged marriages, when the parents make these decisions, they can't do that. They're
That's right.
responsible.
That's
And the
right.
neat thing is they actually get involved and they actually help help the couple out.
Yeah,
And especially when the in-laws get to know you beforehand, they understand you very well too, and they're
right.
actually a lot more helpful.
Yeah, there's a championing of wanting the marriage to succeed, because now they're all invested. Everybody's invested. It's like, especially the arranged family, they're invested in it, like you said. And then this is almost like helping it be kind of arranged, but
Mhm.
in the fact that you're bringing them in earlier rather than later. Um,
Oh,
couple
absolutely.
couple things that Dan talks about throughout his book, is first steps, communicating with women. Come on, guys. We need to have good communication with women. And meeting the potential in-laws, like we talked about. Searching for a ring. That's an interesting one. Planning a wedding, of course, and then going through the highs and lows of relationships. Um, was there I didn't I haven't read the complete book yet. I'm in the process and really enjoying it, but with the talk about the searching for a ring, uh that's always an interesting one. Did you get insight from the person first, or did you just take a risk and go blindly and look, or how did you approach that?
Yeah. Well, very good question. Because to me, I had no idea what I was doing, even
We
throughout
never do.
another reason I wrote the book is I felt like there were always rules like here's what you don't do in a relationship, but I never heard what do we do? It was we're on a
Yeah,
date. It's like, okay, we can't do A, B, and C, but so what do we do? What's
yeah,
next? So
yeah,
this hopefully gives insight. With the ring, that was one of those things. As at first, even actually one of my family members, I won't call the person out, even said really strongly that I needed to get a fake ring to propose, and then that way Margaret would be able to pick out her own ring later.
oh.
When I decided to go forward with this, I talked to a female I know well, saying, "Hey, I'm thinking of doing this," and she was saying, "Dan, no, 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 no."
Yeah,
This was hard. I want to say the biggest thing that got me through with this was actually my in-laws, actually the mother figure in Margaret's life, and the one of her best friends were actually the biggest help. This
yeah,
is why it's good to build relationships with them because then they're on your side and they're there to help you.
yeah.
And
That's so
Margaret,
good.
she's the type who needed a very specific type of ring. So they were able to help me give me some pictures of some ideas. And then I
That's
learned there
great.
were a few different options in how to get rings, such as going to a ring store such as Robbins Brothers. The thing is, there's a great selection, great return policy, but really costly.
Yeah,
There's the mom and pop places. The selections aren't as good, but not as costly. And then there was a wholesaler, which is what I did. With the wholesalers, it's actually a lot cheaper. There's not a good return policy necessarily, and then it takes a little more time to get it done. However, the price was much better, and then was able to get custom rings done. And it was definitely the ring of Margaret's dreams. So I would say, on the whole scheme of things, yeah, it took a month or two more of patience, but boy, did it pay off.
yeah. That's good. I mean, it's so good for us to take that time, because, the ring is an investment, but it's also something that you want your spouse to love and cherish and enjoy, and be the talk of the town kind of thing, and so that's so important. I love that insight. That's great. I love this book all the way through. As I'm going through it, Dan, it's so important that we have healthy relationships, healthy marriages. And although, you can have some train wrecks, in this book, it's so candid, so fresh, so in your face, that it's raw and real, to the point that it's going to be so helpful, because you want people to be honest about where they're at, in the process, and not trying to pretend to be something because society or the outside influences or the church wants you to be a certain way or expects you to be a certain way. And I just love the way your writing style is engaging and funny and sad at times. But it's a good sad, because it's so helpful. And so I just encourage anyone, to get this book, A Quest for Marriage. Dan, do you have a copy of the book? You want to hold that up for everybody?
Yes, sir, I sure do.
There it is, The Quest for Marriage. And
Yes.
it's I know it's on Amazon. So that's the easiest way to get it. And so worth the investment, just a few bucks. It's on ebook as well. So he's got all 5-star reviews for his book, and so it's just doing really well when people are getting it and receiving it and reading it. You can see by the reviews that are coming in, and just so thankful for you, Dan, uh, bringing this out of you, or the Lord bringing this out of you, and partnering with Him to get this out. And how was the writing process when you were writing the book? Did you discover new things that you were unaware of when you were writing it?
Oh, of course. Absolutely. I would think it will go a certain direction, but then it goes somewhere completely different. Kind of like our walks with God. We think we're going one way, but then it ends up happening completely different.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
I could share a
I
couple
love it.
funny stories about that. I remember when I first had the book published, there was a woman I met at the gym. She was my gym instructor. She wanted to write a book. So I said, "Oh, hey, I wrote a book." And she was saying, "Oh, okay, I want to read it." I sold her a copy. She was living with her fiance at the time. She got halfway through it a week later and she was saying, I don't know about this. And I was thinking, well, okay. And then a couple weeks later, she said she finished the book, but there she was something she had to talk to me about. And I'm thinking,
Uh-oh.
uh-oh,
Uh-oh.
oh, I feel like I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
And then she said, this is kind of sad. So I was thinking, oh, okay, what happened? So she said that she realized that the relationship she was in was not right for her. And she ended up moving out from her fiance's place and broke off the relationship because she
Wow.
saw what I did in order to win my wife's heart. And she was thinking this was not right for her. And she ended up recommitting her life to the Lord
Wow.
and looking
Come
for a
on.
church. And that way I introduced her to my wife, got her in touch with our church, and she did so well at the church we were part of for quite a few years. She ended up serving on staff there for quite a while. She's now happily married and has 2 boys of her own. And she's always looked to us for mentorship in her life. And to me, it's, hey, this really changed someone's life. I mean,
Yeah.
even though God never said I was going to get wealthy from this book, a lot of times it's for a purpose to change somebody's life. That meant
That's
so much. And one
wow.
funny story, near the beginning, I talked about a relationship that ended up not working so well. I put this person as an anonymous name. The person did know I was doing this because we had reconnected at a later time. And she gave her permission, saying, okay, just don't say who I really am. And I said, hey, no problem. I mean, I did mention some things that went wrong on her part. Did I cause some things too? Yeah, I sure did. I point that I contributed. However, what's funny is even just recently, this person reconnected after a while, asking if my book was available on ebook, and I said, "Yeah, it sure is." She ended up buying the book too and reading it. And I was thinking, "Oh wow, I'm glad I was so careful about what I say because you never know if the person's gonna read it."
That's
The
right.
great thing is that, hey, she's behind it, and obviously I wish her the best as well. So you
Yeah.
never know if things come around full circle.
That's right. Wow. Wow, what a testimony of seeing this book in action, helping this young lady to realize that she was in the wrong relationship, based off of how you walked out your relationship building process. Wow, that's amazing. And then moving on, and then getting plugged into the church, rededicating her life, being on staff, getting married, having, a whole family of her own that's healthy and thriving. Wow, you can't ask for anything, more than that. And I know there is more that the Lord has for this book and for you, Dan. Wow, that's an incredible blessing. And
Oh,
so I just
absolutely.
want, yeah, I want to release that blessing over everybody that gets this book now, that you will have your marriage restored, or a healthy relationship that you'll move into, that you will bring, it'll bring awareness to you in search of a woman, and that men will realize that they can be fully alive, be themselves, and still obtain a woman that's met and matched for them. And so I just feel like there's just a supernatural blessing upon your book, Dan, and I'm just so thankful for it.
Thank you. You're so kind. I mean, even with these people, actually, this woman I was talking about, her husband was even saying, "Hey, you're the reason that these kids are even alive right now." And I was thinking, hey, I
That's
appreciate that. Absolutely. Still, ultimately, it's God that made it happen. I mean, a big
Yeah,
thing, even that I'm learning more and more after walking with God for over 20 years, is this is all based on how great He is, not by my merits, not because of how great I am. I
yeah,
was just saying, hey, God used this in order to make this happen, but there was so many other things that made it happen. I'm not even close to the key reason. I mean, the key reason is God,
yeah,
and it's because of how great He is.
yeah, yeah. But you took the time to co-labor with him to get this book out, and I thank you for saying yes to that adventure. You're writing a book's not easy, but you did it, you got it out, and now you're seeing the fruit of that labor with the Lord. The Lord had always intended for this book to reach people like her and others. And it's so amazing that you get to hear and see the fruit of that, because some people don't with their books. And wow, what a blessing. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up, Dan?
That's a good question. I can't really think of anything.
O-
Ultimately, it's just give
Okay,
glory to God and go ahead.
I want you to release just a short prayer for everybody, and as they encounter the Lord reading your book.
You got it. Father God, I'm so grateful that you gave me the opportunity to write this book and you gave me the grace to write this book. I'm praying, Father, that you use the book to impact the people who read it the way you want them to be impacted, and that it helps them out in their own quest for a marriage or a relationship or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
In your name, I pray this.
Amen. Wow. Come on. Dan, your book is amazing. A Quest for Marriage. It's available on Amazon. Go ahead and get that book, and bless Dan with an Amazon review as well. And he would love to hear from you. It would warm his heart, as it warms all authors' hearts when we get a review from people. And so thankful for you, Dan. Thanks for being on here with me and taking this time to interview, and for us to get to know you a little bit better.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's such an honor.
All right. All right. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you next time.